Hey, this is Angela with this week's Living the Shift. One question for you. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? And what would you do if you knew you only had this very moment right now to do whatever? And that nothing beyond now was guaranteed. What would you do? This is really a key question. I know you've seen that question over and over on the internet. It's all over Facebook, all that kind of stuff. However, it is a great indicator of how we can change our living, change our thinking on how to live this shift, how to live in a new way, in a different way, in this level of reality, in this level of consciousness. That's part of our goal. Because here's the thing. We spend so much time, our egos spend so much time projecting, remembering. Remember what happened yesterday? Well, I'm going to resent that today. Remember what happened yesterday? I'm going to regret that today. Remember blah, blah, blah. And projecting tomorrow. Oh, what if I don't do this? What if I don't do this? What if I don't do this? Then there's the other level of this. We spend so much time in telling ourselves that we need to somehow prove our worthiness in so many different ways, that prove our worthiness of being loved, prove our worthiness of being, in a family or, an employee, all this kind of stuff. What if we took that all away? What if we said, I'm perfect right now. I am perfectly divine and everything right now. And I don't need to strive to be worthy. I don't need to strive to be loved because I am loved. I am unconditionally loved. And I emit unconditional love to everyone. And I am allowed to be all I can be right now. And because I love myself, because I'm totally happy and comfortable within myself, I don't care what other people think of me. I don't care if they have judgments about me because it's none of my business what other people think of me. But that's where they are on their journey. That's what we're working to get to. That's what we're, striving to get to, because once we get there, it is such a sense of freedom, such a sense of letting go of all of the chains that bind us, all of the things that our egos have disempowered us with, or we have allowed ourselves to feel disempowered with, such as, I have to act this way because I'm in this situation. I have to be this kind of person because I'm in this situation. I have to do this, or I can't do this because I'm in this situation. All of these things that we think about, because ultimately what we feel like is, well, then that would make me a bad person. That would make, if I did this, if I didn't do this, that would make me a bad person. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be worthy of being loved, and that would mean that I wouldn't be loved, and I would be cast out in the dark, and would be miserable. These are the things that run, these scripts that run underneath everything, and what we do so much to perpetuate. So now what we're doing in this Living the Shift is we're actually taking away all those scripts. We're releasing the scripts. We've done them to death, and that goes back to completing this lesson of duality, this lesson of the concept that there could be a me and a not me, which then provides the good and the concept of good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, how many come to me and we have conversations about, I don't know if I'm on the right path. I don't think I'm on the right path in my life. What if I do this and it's the wrong choice? It's all the right choice, because it's all the energy we're giving to whatever path that we aspire to go to. So here's the key. Many of us have grown up with this. When you grow up, this is what you should do. You should get a good job. You should do this. You should be a good parent. You should get married. You should have the 2.5 kids and white picket fence. And you should do this. And you should have this kind of car and this kind of house and live in this kind of neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. And if you do all that, that's what makes you a worthy person, worthy citizen, a worthy family person. And so in our heads, we have this script going on, and that's what we work towards. Well, we have gotten to such a level of disengagement, a level of separating empowerment away from us, and allowing others to tell us what we can and cannot do, what should make us happy, what would make us worthy, that we have gotten into this level of autoplay, right? Autopilot, where we don't even ask ourselves, is this really what's going to make me happy? And I've talked about this many times. I've had many come to me, and I've worked with so many who come to me and say, I am unhappy. And I'm unhappy with my life. And I'm like, why? Well, I don't know. There's one side of it, which is I'm unhappy because I'm bored. I'm comfortable, but there's no excitement in my life, and I just want to jump off a bridge. I get that. Then there's the other level of, oh, well, I'm doing this and I've had this great time and I've had all these awesome experiences, but I don't look like this person. I don't look like my sibling. My sister or brother has, their perfect spouse and their kid, 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and the dog and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have that. And I'm like, is that what you want? And it's so funny because so many people it never even occurs to so many of us to say, is it really what I want? Or am I wasting all this energy saying I don't have what blank has? Because in my mind, it makes me feel like my parents would love me more because I was more like them, because that's what we were brought up to do. That was what we were brought up to expect to have for happiness in our lives. So, so funny. I talk about this a lot. People come to me and say, "Oh, I want to have, I'm 40 and I never had kids." Okay, so do you want kids? And they look at me like surprised, and I'm like, you don't have to want kids. It's not like, written in your DNA that you have to want to have kids, and there's nothing wrong with you if you don't. It's just that many times we have our parents and families and friends that are all like, oh, so when are you having kids? When are you having a baby? You get married. When are you gonna have a baby? It's all of those expectations, what others impose on us, and all that stuff of disempowerment. So the key at this point is to let go of all that. To start letting go of all of those expectations, letting go of fitting into somebody else's picture of what your happiness should be like, because they don't know what your happiness is going to look like. They don't know. Nobody else knows what happiness looks like for you except for you. And happiness comes from ultimately doing what you came here to do, or leading your life into what you came here to do for your soul's purpose. Because contrary to what many believe, it's not due to suffering, it's not, through suffering or whatever, it's through enlightenment and bliss. Coming to this level of bliss in every moment and living right here, right now in this moment, because right now in this moment is the best it could be, without having to say, well, I gotta do this, and this later, and I've got to do this, and and oh God, that's such a hindrance and everything else. You know what? If I love this moment, everything else, I love everything else. If I love where I am right now, I love everything else. In fact, it makes me more tolerant, makes me more at ease and fluid and accepting, because of the fact that I am happy and I am addressing my soul's individual purpose, my soul's individual journey on remembering, not finding, but remembering the bliss that we exist in at the higher levels of consciousness. Because that's really the goal, is really to come to that bliss here in this reality. It's the goal is to bring that into this reality, and then we're done and we can move on to the next one. That is my understanding, in essence, the totality of the lessons of this existence. Learning all the lessons, going through the lessons of the ego, going through lessons of duality, completing them, and then, adding depth to our oneness, our isness, our being, and having another experience and moving on to the next experience. Coming back to our bliss, coming back to the divine beings that we are, and how orgasmic it is, how beyond orgasmic it is to be in that bliss at all times. Why wouldn't we want to live in that? Why don't we want to live in that? And it's so funny, because when I work with people, so many say to me, why don't we do this? Like, what? Why did we forget? Why did we ever want to get away from it? I'm like, because we did. Because we always have been, always are, always will be. And that's just what it is. It's part of the game. But yay, we're here. We're here at this point in time where we're ready to come back to it without the ego ruling us and taking advantage of others. And that's where we have fallen several times and sort of had to circle and cycle back around and start all over again to come back to this point throughout this existence. But here's the thing. I talk a lot about tapping back into our Christed consciousness, which is part of our oneness, and which is part of us being in the oneness as the divine. And many have fears about that. Many are saying, well, that's really too dangerous. And I'm like, why is that too dangerous? Because if we truly go into our Christed consciousness and we tap into that power comes from unconditional love. And if we do it purely without the ego, then there's no failing. You cannot fail. It is all awesome, every single moment. And so the key for us to do is to start letting go. And that's what we talk about when we say, it's time to let go of the stuff that doesn't serve us. Everything that does not address what is going to ultimately make us love ourselves and step into our power, step into our truth and magnificence, every single thing that does not feed into that doesn't serve us. And when it doesn't serve us, it needs to fall away. And we're getting to this point where energetically, our higher selves are coming in like, okay, yeah, we're just going to let it crumble. So many are going through like a lot of what we call this stress and swings in energy and swings in moods and swings and ups and downs. And that's all the releasing of this. And so the key is to shift our consciousness. I mean, one of the key things is to shift into what is wrong with this very moment. And if it goes back to Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, he talks about that too. Same thing. What is wrong right this second? Or actually, what I like to do is say, what is right this second? What is making me happy? And what can make me joyous? And what makes me even more blissful right this second? What would you do if you could not fail? And the next thing is think about how many people who find out they're going to die, right? And they have like a couple months to live, how they change their entire lives because they're like, oh my God, there's no time left. And now it's like all that stuff is wasted and it's a waste of time. Why does our ego have to get to that point? Why do we have to get to that point in this density for our ego to finally let go and say, okay, wow, yeah, that really didn't serve us? If we live from this moment saying there's nothing else but this moment and I might die in 5 minutes, the earth might blow up in 10. Why would we want to do anything but what was going to bring us bliss and happiness and ultimately the highest joy and amazement that we could possibly bring? There's so much in this world to be amazed about and be happy about and be joyous about, but we spend so much time looking at what to be sad about, what to be angry about, what to resent about. Instead of separation, it's time for us to come together in unification. And in unification, there's nothing but right now. So think about that. As we move forward, think about that, how to shift your thinking, how to shift your acting and being into this moment, into what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you knew that ultimately what was going to make you happy and blissful is what you came here to do, is what is ultimately what came here to do? And it doesn't matter, like so many people think, oh, what if, oh yeah, well, I should have become the head of, of NASA, or I should have been president of the United States, or whatever. No. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, that's all ego. Right now, what is my heart wanting to do to make it sing, so that I sing in every single moment, so I don't need to do anything else? And if we follow that, when we follow that, we never fail. Never fail. There's no chance of it. Being happy is not a sin. Being happy is, sins are subjective anyway. Sins are part of that perception of duality. Being happy is not a bad thing. Serving yourself in the way of unconditional love so that you bring up your vibration so that you can then bring up the vibration of others. Are you ever, when you're in a room with a purely happy, joyful person, it's almost impossible not to be happy. And if you start getting irritated because they're so happy and you want to leave, that's you. That has nothing to do with them. And I've had that happen with other people with me. So the key is to know, if you follow your heart, you cannot fail. Oh, we can't fail anyway because it's all part of the play that we've created. We've created it, we've directed it, we've played in it. Now, we're resolving all that. It's all part of the play. But here's the thing, the key, the rightest, the bestest, the most happiest and blissful we're going to be is if we follow our heart, because that's what comes through from our higher selves in purity from the soul. So think about that. And this week your homework is to think about what will make your heart sing, and take away all of the constructs in your life and say at the very core, what will make me happy? what will make me not only happy, but blissful. Like I feel like I'm going to explode in bliss and happiness in every single moment. And you know what? We're all here to do it, no matter how down you are, no matter how depraved you feel you are, and all that kind of stuff. We can find beauty and love and laughter and happiness and bliss in everything if we so choose. And on that, I'm going to let you go. We'll talk to you next week. This is Angela with this week's Living the Shift.